So, remember back in February when Ohio Congressman Michael Turner, let's just say, raised some eyebrows and probably a few alarms when he said on NBC's Meet the Press that Russia was moving to make a space based nuclear weapon a reality?
Based on the intelligence you have seen, how serious is the threat?
Well, the threat is very serious. Everyone who's looked at it uses the same language that I have, that it is a very serious threat.
Well, for their part, the Russians said that was not the case, instead, calling the statements a ploy to pressure Russia into arms negotiations with the West. Wherever the truth falls, the idea alone caused many to wonder aloud, well, what if? What if Russia had space nukes? To explore that question, we recently talked to 3 university professors, all of whom have an excellent grasp on what if, to see if any of this Russian space nuke talk keeps them up at night. For most of us lay people, the idea of launching weapons measured in kilotons from the vastness of space, or knocking out entire satellite networks, sounds like something straight out of a James Bond movie. But rest assured, the experts think so too.
It reminds me of GoldenEye,
Yeah.
right? I think this is something that other outlets just sort of picked up on, where they could use an EMP device or something like that to render the electronics in a lot of these satellites, which are fragile, oftentimes very fragile instruments in and of themselves, useless.
Russia using nuclear devices in space could come in one of a few different ways, and no, nuclear-powered space lasers are not one of them. At least not yet. Russia could launch nukes at Earth-bound targets from a space-based platform like a satellite, but ICBMs could achieve the same result. Russia could detonate a nuke in the atmosphere, knocking out anything electronic across entire continents, causing mass panic and potential societal collapse. But again, missiles could do the same thing. While the existence of some of this technology and whether Russia could use it is certainly up for debate, the concerns these debates generate are valid. But the experts say we need to temper any expectations or prognostications with what we already know to be true.
There's talk, of course, of the Russians violating the Aerospace Treaty, and this is the end of the Aerospace Treaty and all that. That's premature. Not only have they not actually done this yet, but the Soviet Union designed a large part of the Aerospace Treaty.
And that's a reason Russia might not want to take part in what Representative Turner says they could be planning. For everything that's unpredictable about Vladimir Putin, he does tend to favor whatever holdovers still exist from the Soviet Union.
But my sense is that as a state, that is certainly not in Russia's interest, and that a lot of their behaviors seem to still be interested in maintaining some of those alliances, particularly with China.
Elsbeth Magilton, Jack Beard, and Tyler White's expertise collide at the avenues of law, national security, and cybersecurity, making them all well qualified when it comes to talking about the new threats from America's oldest adversaries. For most sane people, subjects like a Russian space nuke is unsettling to say the least, a feeling Magilton says she's not immune to. She also says perspective is important.
When you start working in security and in defense, that notion that we were always so secure my whole life kind of goes away, and you realize how tenuous it always is and always has been. And somehow that makes you feel a little bit better because you realize that we've always been walking this line. And yes, that's scary, but I've been safe up until now. And so maybe it's not as bleak as it feels in these moments.
Well, Turner's comments grabbed a lot of headlines. There was other news regarding Russia and space, specifically their plans to build a nuclear power plant with the Chinese, a plant that would power their settlements on the moon. That's something Jack Beard says could be a much bigger issue for U.S. interests.
Competition on the moon for scarce resources is probably a more formidable threat. In near term, I mean, we're talking about putting people there and using the space resources. And I'm not aware of any time in history where humans haven't gone to some part of this planet, found scarce resources, had companies come and want them, and they don't get into conflict with other countries about the resources.
For Tyler White, the concerns in space, at least in part, stem from concerns that are more earthbound.
I worry about the future of NATO, which I think has been an unbelievably productive and incredibly important thing in the history of humankind, right? I mean, a defensive alliance like this lasted this long, because the challenges posed by China, the challenges posed by Russia, those things become much easier to handle when you are in a reliable relationship with regional partners. And there's more uncertainty around the future of those relationships, and most of it's coming from the United States.
Well, there are no easy or imminent answers to many, if not all, of these concerns. Magilton says the fact that American astronauts and Russian cosmonauts are living and working together right now on the International Space Station is a positive. And maybe that's enough to allow you to get a little sleep tonight.